Let's talk about the number one herb to avoid if you have high blood pressure. This could be dangerous if you don't know about it. Before I write it down, can you guess what it is? If you consume too much of it, which a lot of people do, you will start holding sodium like crazy, and you will also release a lot of potassium. Your blood pressure might go up, and you also might get muscle cramps and arrhythmias because your electrolytes are not there to be able to counter what you need for the heart. All right, let me reveal what I'm talking about. Licorice. It's a common thing that people consume. They consume it in a tea, they consume it as candy, but most people take licorice root for their adrenals, especially if they're going through stress. So your body has a built-in safety enzyme to protect you from producing too much cortisol. That's the stress hormone. And it's a safety enzyme, which is right here, 11B HSD2. Not that you needed to know the name of it, but this is a safety enzyme to protect you from raising too much cortisol, because that could be dangerous. Too much cortisol will cause you to retain sodium, get rid of your potassium, increase your blood pressure, cause muscle cramps, and create heart arrhythmia issues. And it just so happens that licorice blocks this enzyme because the active compound in licorice is this right here, glycyrrhizin. So when your body no longer has this safety enzyme, cortisol starts going up. So to make this simple, if you consume too much licorice, it's going to trick your body into doing all these things right here. Now, our bodies were designed to retain sodium because way back in the day, there wasn't a lot of sodium around. There was probably way more potassium foods than sodium. And so I think one of the reasons why this compound is in licorice is just to help us survive in the past by retaining more sodium. But today, we get a lot of sodium from junk foods, right? But we rarely get enough potassium, and that's really the big problem. Let's just talk about potassium for a second. There are reports that show that 98% of the population just does not get enough potassium. That's literally almost 100%, because we need 4,700 milligrams. What does potassium do? It's a key electrolyte for the heart. It helps us generate energy in our nerves and our muscles. It also greatly helps protect you against blood sugar issues. It helps you store glycogen in your liver. And so the potassium issue is not uncommon. And the problem is by taking too much licorice or licorice tea or the candy, boy, you go from deficiency to severe deficiency. And if you don't have enough potassium, that could put a big problem on your heart, especially with arrhythmias. So people get licorice from candy. A lot of kids have it. A lot of other people have licorice tea, or they have licorice supplements, or they get it in capsules, and they're taking them on a daily basis. I do not recommend that, especially if you're older, especially if you have high blood pressure, especially if you're on a diuretic, and even more than that, especially if you're taking a synthetic version of cortisone like prednisone, and you take licorice. That is not good at all. Now, for some people that have low cortisol, maybe a little more licorice might be good, but I think they should be supervised by someone who knows about that. But it's pretty wild because so many people are trying to get healthier with things like licorice, and they don't really look at all the different factors. So, how much licorice tea would be too much? If you consume over 2 cups of licorice tea every single day, that could be enough to start shifting the electrolyte balance, okay? Or if you're eating 100 milligrams of licorice candy a day, over 2 weeks, that could be a problem, even to the point where you can actually end up in hospital. The real danger is not one dose, it's the chronic low-dose exposure that builds up in the body. And it's interesting because in this medical book, which was written in 1926, guess what one of the remedies was? Licorice. So licorice has been used for a long time, for over 3,000 years, for all sorts of things, like ulcers, coughing, inflammation, infections. So it stood the test of time, and a lot of people have gotten a lot of benefit from it. But just realize it's very, very powerful. It's not completely safe for every single person. Now, there is a certain type of licorice that extracted this compound, so that way you won't get this effect with this enzyme. You won't mess with this enzyme, called DGL. So basically just take this thing out and you're getting the benefits of licorice without this thing that can create problems. So this is just one thing you should put on your radar. If you're going to take licorice, get the one that is a DGL licorice, okay? And that way, it won't create these effects right here. That way you can get the gut effects. If you have an ulcer, you can get the positive immune effects without pulling all the potassium out and creating problems with your electrolytes, especially if you're going to use it long term. I mean, licorice is interesting because it could mimic the signs of adrenal tumors and hormone disorders because it can create this thing right here. It's called pseudo-aldosteronism, which basically it's kind of a false increase of aldosterone coming from this. It's not coming from a tumor, and so it's something that doctors would look at. And this is why it's important if you're at the doctor to let them know, everything you're doing if you're taking licorice, because that could be the cause. And if they don't have that data, they can misdiagnose you. The good news is that if you have some of these symptoms from taking licorice, you can just stop taking it. The symptoms will reverse usually. And so I am talking about some of the dangers with herbs, but generally speaking, most herbs are super beneficial. And many of the complications from herbs are extremely rare, especially if you compare them to medications. And I'm really in support of the therapies they used to use back in the day. But unfortunately, the recommendations of natural things from doctors are close to zero. I have a free download that I want to give to you. This free download is my daily routine in the checklist. This is the routine that I use every day to feel like I'm 18 years old, even though I'm 6 years old, and I want to give it to you for free. And so there's a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that. Since we're talking about herbs, there's some really simple herbs that you can use in the kitchen to improve your health. And for that information, you should watch this video right here. Check it out.